Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make fudgy chocolate brownies, and this is what they look like. The reason I call them fudgy is because they contain a lot of chocolate, which makes them almost taste like fudge. And yet the texture is quite light, it's soft, with just a little bit of chew. So the first thing we need to do to make our brownies is to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And you will need an 8-inch square pan, that's 20 centimeter. And I'm going to butter my pan. You could spray them with your pan with one of those nonstick sprays, but I like to just melt just a little butter and then take a pastry brush and just brush the pan, both the bottom and the sides. And then I like to put just a square of parchment paper on the bottom. You could use foil as well. Okay. And then, like I said, these contain a lot of chocolate, actually 12 ounces, which is 340 grams of semi-sweet chocolate. Now, your brownies are only going to taste as good as the chocolate you use. So try to use a good quality and chop it coarsely, or I've bought them in disc form. And if you're in a pinch and you really want to make brownies and you don't have any semi-sweet chocolate, you could use 2 cups of your favorite semi-sweet chocolate chips. And then to that, put that in a heat-proof bowl because we are going to melt our chocolate, and you will need a saucepan of simmering water. And we also need a half a cup, which is 113 grams of butter. You can use salted or unsalted, whatever you prefer. And I like to have it at room temperature and cut it into smaller pieces because then it'll melt faster along with our chocolate. So I'm just going to put it over the heat until it's melted. Okay, that looks good. As you can see, it's all melted. So just remove it from the heat. Now, it is like a touch warm. So what I'm going to do is just let it sit for a few minutes to cool down to room temperature, and then when we come back, we will finish off our brownies. So now, in a large bowl, have 3 large eggs, and have your eggs at room temperature. And to that, I'm going to add 1 cup, which is 200 grams of granulated white sugar. And for flavoring, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, 5 grams of pure vanilla extract. If you prefer, you don't want the vanilla, you could just leave that out. Now, I'm going to beat this. Now, you could use a hand mixer like I'm going to do here. I mean, you could use your stand mixer, or you can just use a wire whisk. And what we're going to beat this until it's kind of light and kind of frothy. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're using a lot of dark chocolate, and I want to lighten the texture of that just a little. So maybe like a minute or 2, just beat it. Okay, that looks good. So that's what you're looking for. It's kind of lightened up a bit, nice and it's lots of bubbles, air bubbles. So that's what we're looking for. So now what we're going to do is add our melted chocolate and make sure that's cooled off. You don't want to put hot chocolate into our eggs. So I like to just add a little, and I'm using just my wire whisk. So I just put a bit in, and just in case it is warm at all, if we whisk constantly. Okay, that looks good. Oh, really smell that chocolate in here. Okay. Get it all. And give it a good whisk here. Okay, that looks good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some flour. So you will need 3/4 of a cup, which is 95 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I'm actually going to add 1/2 teaspoon, 1 gram of baking powder, and that will also lighten up the texture. Give us a little rise to our brownies, not a lot, but just a little. And I'm just going to whisk that in and then just add it to our batter. Stir it in. Now, if you wanted to take this over the top, you could add in, at this point, you could add 1/2 cup about 75 or I guess 80 grams of your favorite semi-sweet, bittersweet milk chocolate chips. You could add some nuts, about 1/2 cup, 50 grams of chopped nuts. But I am just going to leave them and enjoy just that dark chocolate in this. Okay, that looks good. We're just going to pour that in. Okay. And level the top. You can just kind of shake your pan because it's... And there we go. Now, we're going to bake our brownies. I find about 30 minutes, but time is only one factor. What you're looking for is the top of the brownies will get dry and you might have some cracking. They will just start to pull away from the sides of the pan. And when you put a toothpick into the center, it will come out quite wet with the batter. And that's the way I like my brownies. You can vary. If you like them really soft, you can bake them a little less. And then conversely, if you like them a little firmer, you can bake them a little more. But I would check them probably at least 28 minutes because I find if you overbake brownies, they tend to be a little dry, which is not, at least that's not how I like my brownies. So about 30 minutes. Okay, so our fudgy chocolate brownies are done. As you can see, the top is dry and firm, and there is cracking, and it's just beginning to separate from the sides of the pan. And then when I take a toothpick and put it in, as you can see, it is coming out moist. That's how I like it, nice and soft and moist. So now what we want to do is cool the brownies in the pan on a wire rack quite a few hours because they're really quite soft. So I prefer probably 2-3 hours. If you want to speed that up a little, if you can't wait to have a brownie, you could eat them and they're kind of soft. Or you can, I always put them in the fridge for about an hour and that really firms them up quickly. Now, personally, I find brownies are better the next day. I find the chocolate, because we're using a lot of chocolate, the chocolate flavor is quite sharp on the first day, and I kind of like on the second day, it kind of softens, mellows a bit, but either one is great. So we're going to try, I made these yesterday, and as you can see, nice, the top is nice and cracked, and if I open it, it's nice and moist and soft. Oh, I love chocolate. That is such a great chocolate flavor. And they're moist, and they're light because, we beat that eggs and sugar together and then add a little baking powder. It gives it a little bit of a lift and a little bit of a chew. Oh, perfect. Need a cup of coffee. So you can cover and store these either in the fridge or at room temperature. I find 4 or 5 days. And what's also great, I like to put some in the freezer so then whenever I have a chocolate craving, just take one out. So enjoy, and until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.